Welcome to Open House Radio with Howard Cohen. Open House Radio goes where no other talk show has gone before. To the limits, to give you the best advice on real estate investments and opportunities anywhere.
People think this is going to be the same old real estate show. We're the originators, not the imitators. Here on Open House Radio, we deal in all things real estate. And don't be surprised to hear us talk about our favorite resorts or do a restaurant or a beer review.
Be sure to tell your friends to stream live and get out your smartphones. You're going to need them for Open House Radio. Now, here's your host, Howard Cohen.
Good morning, San Francisco. We are here this morning with you on KDOW. I'm here with my partner, Jean-Marc Landau. Good morning, Jean-Marc.
Good morning, Howard. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. How are you?
Excellent.
Good. It's kind of a little colder day out today than it was normally. And
it's a nice, bright, foggy day in San Francisco. And the Bay Area. We should include the Bay Area.
Yeah, definitely. And that's okay. I mean, then maybe people will be driving around, getting their errands done, and catch a little real estate info that we're going to help them with here today. If you've been listening to the show, we've been on this radio station for about 4 weeks now, and we are excited to be here. It's not the first time we've been on in San Francisco, but on KDOW, and we are excited to be part of the family here and bring you some really good information and inspiration, hopefully, having to do with real estate and your portfolio and anything that you may be interested in talking about. I want to give out the numbers. If you have any questions or you have any comments about what we're saying, you can always give us a call. We're here live on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock every week. The number where you can call us right now is 800-516-1220. That's 800-516-1220 to reach us live and ask a question. My name is Howard Cohen. I'm here with my partner, Jean-Marc, who is an expert in loans and finance. And we're going to talk a bit about that this morning starting out. That's going to be the first of our topics today, is going to be talking about some of the commercial loans and, things that are happening in the commercial lending institutions and the market and all that, right? I mean,
right.
Don't.
Do you want me to jump in right now?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we can start it off and then, go from there.
This is something I touched on last show and even last couple of shows, where everyone is aware that the market has come down in the valuation on residential properties. And the same is true on commercial properties. And one of the huge elephant that no one's talking about is on commercial loans typically are due every 5, 7, or 10 years. They're not written for 30 years the way residential loans are.
And commercial loans refer to anything that's over a 1 to 4 unit place, right?
It could be residential 5 units and up, or office buildings, or storage, or hotels, or
anything other than a house or a small residential.
Basically, single family to 4 unit is considered residential. Everything else is commercial.
Right.
And one of the numbers I've seen from several sources is that 62% of all commercial loans, I mean, that's more than 1 in 2 commercial loans in the United States is going to be, quote-unquote, delinquent in the next 24 months.
Right, now repeat that, because that's something that I think everybody, if they didn't crash their car when you just said it just now, should definitely take note of. Go ahead, say it one more time.
So the number I've seen is 62% of all commercial loans in the United States are going to be delinquent in the next 24 months. And by delinquent, I'm not saying that the payers are not paying their loan. What's happening is the 5, 7, or 10-year maturity is arriving. The loan is due, and on the refinance, the property no longer qualifies for the amount of loan that they have against the property.
That's like, okay, so now that's really nuts when you say something like that. That it sounds nuts. I mean, I'm going to get people calling us probably saying, what are you guys, crazy? Or, are you predicting? And we can predict the future. We honestly can. I mean, there are certain ways, believe it or not, and he's looking at me funny like, but no, I mean, we can predict certain things that are going to for sure happen, and this is pretty much one of them, is that a very, very large percentage of the commercial loans that are going to be in default in a short period of time, and there's got to be something that we do about it. If you're one of the people that either owns one of those properties, it's going to be you, right?
Right, absolutely. No, I mean, there are things to do about it.
Do people even realize this? I mean, are a lot of people I think are out there maybe saying, "What are you talking about? I'm not going to be in default. I'm paying my mortgage every month."
Right. No, a lot of people are realizing that there's a problem. They don't quite know. That they know their loan is coming due, or maybe they're facing it right now. But I have several clients right now. For example, there's a $5.2 million payoff, and the property qualifies for a $4 million loan.
And they don't know. They didn't know that it's necessarily going to be that situation. Like, who knows what their property is really worth unless they've had an appraisal done recently. Is that
right? One of the things that happens on a commercial loan, unlike residential loans, the loan amount is based completely on the income of the property. So, if the income on the property has not changed since the loan was originally put in place, more than likely the lending guidelines have tightened up. So even though you qualified with the same income before, you're no longer going to qualify for that loan amount with the income. Very likely also, especially in shopping malls and in various other asset classes, the tenants have had to renegotiate a lease to reduce the rent in order to stay in business and not vacate the premises. So you're better off with a reduced rent than no rent at all. Yet, when it comes time to refinance, the property now, on this one example, qualifies for $4 million loan, not 5.2. So what does one do? That's the big question.
right? And I think that's a good place to take a short break, and then we can come back and hopefully some listeners out there who are now recuperating from what you just said are thinking about this. Maybe we'll get a couple calls and some people asking, what they can do, because we have some answers for you. I mean, you're going to have to do some repositioning, perhaps, of the property or of your finances, and that's what we're here to talk about. So we show you how to do some repositioning, and we're going to get into all that as we go on here on Open House Radio. If you want to give us a call, we're also going to bring Scott, our attorney, in on the conversation as well. So we'll have a lot of good information for you. Don't go away. Definitely stay tuned for this hour, because this is some information you're going to want, and if you don't know it, you will know it, and you don't know what you don't know, right? That's what we always tell people. Is they don't know what they don't know. If you knew it, then you would do it, but if you don't know it, you don't know it. So give us a call at 800-516-1220. That's 800-516-1220. You can also get an email back from me, and if it's real easy on your phone, you can just text U-Radio, the letter U-R-A-D-I-O, to the number 50500, just like American Idol. Just text U-Radio to 50500, and we'll get you an email back, and I'll get you on the investment hot sheet. If you want to get on the investment hot sheet, you can also find it on the web at investmenthotsheet.com. My name is Howard Cohen. This is Open House Radio. We're going to be right back.
You're listening to Open House Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.
Nice. Get a little Beatles action this morning. They're doing a big documentary and exhibit on George Harrison. Just came out in the paper yesterday. I was reading on that, and of course he's my favorite Beatle. I think. I don't know, music-wise, I like him the best. Call us with your favorite Beatle and tell us what you think.
Very real estate related.
Oh, yeah. Real estate Beatle. Yes, okay. We're here with Scott Basson. I want to bring him on the line. He's with us each week here on Open House Radio. He's our attorney in-house. Scott, are you there?
I am. Good morning, Howard. And how are you, John Mark?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. I was just on the last topic. You mentioned that there are people who find themselves with loans coming due and unable to refi for the amount of the loan that's on there. I'm aware of a multi-unit property in Texas that just recently had the same situation, and the owner was forced to go into the hard money market and actually was having to refi the property and pay 9.5%. it's just a pretty steep percentage. He's hoping that he's going to be able to find a better loan once he just borrowed it for 2 years, but he's hoping he can go out and find a better loan once that 2 years is up. It's a pretty tough market out there these days, but I hear it is getting better. I guess you'd know that more than any of us, John Mark.
Well, no, it's definitely a tough market, and what you're talking about is, I mean, there's so many different possibilities of different situations. I had another situation where a lumber company needed to refinance again. Their 10 years was up. They had a perfect payment record with a large bank, and the large bank, because it was a lumber company, because they had red ink in the last 2 years, even though the property itself qualified, the borrower no longer qualified. So again, we had to go into a hard money loan, and that was actually because it was a rural area and because it was a lumber company. I had a really hard time, and we ended up at a 12% loan on that one.
So what are the options here? I mean, you've got a short payoff or commercial loan that's coming due. The value is not going to be there that was originally there when you got the loan, when you bought the property. And you have to do something because the loan is coming due. So you're either going to get foreclosed on if you don't refinance it, right?
Right.
So what do people do? And like you're mentioning here, you're going for hard money at 9 and 12%. What are other options that are available to people, and why should they call us and give them a reason to give them some hope here, will you? Please, something. Give people some hope, because I don't even think they know they're in the hot water and they're already up to like their shoulders, you know?
Right.
Well, I can say one thing, you know, the lenders don't want to have another wave of having properties come back to them. They're still recovering from that, and a lot of lenders still own a lot of properties. So I would think in the short term you want to try to renegotiate with your lender and ask them not to take action while you're trying to find some replacement money.
Right, absolutely. I mean, there's delaying their taking action. When a loan comes due, they can either extend it or give you a few months' grace, or actually rewrite it. Most of the time they don't rewrite it, but you can certainly approach them and ask for that. I think there are two main issues to look at. One is whether there is equity in the property. The other is if there isn't equity in the property. And if there is equity, as in both the case you cited and the one I cited, there are potentially other lenders out there. We would try to get the best priced money possible for the situation. And usually it may hurt the borrower. It may hurt the business that's borrowing in the short term, just cash flow wise. But at least they're safe and they can weather the storm for another 6 to 12 months, maybe 2 years.
Well, what do you do in the case where there's situations where you've got people who have multiple commercial properties? Okay, now you got a guy that is wealthy on paper, cash flow, whatever, coming in. He's got a good income, and then one of his properties is coming into this situation. Do they do any cross-collateralization of these properties? Is there a way that this person, I mean, because number one, the guy doesn't want his credit screwed up. Okay.
Right.
Number
Right.
two, he doesn't want to lose, more than he has to in any case, in any of his properties. What's the situation there?
Well, the bank is going to look at global cash flow as well as the individual property. And big banks tend to not cross-collateralize. Private money lenders do, and REITs and various other alternative lenders definitely do cross-collateralize and will look at the bigger picture. So there are lenders out there that will work with you, even if your current lender will not. That's assuming there is cash flow sufficient globally to cover what's going on, even though the particular property may not.
Now, with changing, let me ask you this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, there's probably a lot of questions out there for everybody that they have. So if you have one, go ahead and call us and ask, and we'll throw you in the mix here. But would doing something like what we're going to talk about after the break, we're going to discuss methods about how to bring the income and maximize the profits on your properties. By doing some of these techniques that we may be able to tell people to improve the value of their property, is that going to influence their ability to refinance that property?
Banks tend to look back, not forwards. So If you're getting a bridge loan or a private money loan for the interim, there are strategies to turn the property around, increase the income and therefore the value and what it qualifies for in terms of loans. Again, if you do not have equity in the property, let's say you had a shopping center in an area that was hard hit. The several communities in the East Bay, for example, where there are thousands of empty homes, therefore traffic at the shopping centers are down, business is down, a lot of those leases have gone down. Maybe you had a $10 million loan on a shopping center, now it qualifies for a $5 million loan. What do you do? So you can either renegotiate with your lender, maybe. There may well be tax consequences to that, so definitely talk with your CPA and tax preparer. You're going to try to renegotiate a $5 million payoff of a $10 million loan.
And they're doing that? I mean, now the lenders basically, like Scott said, they don't want the foreclosure, right? And they know the market value isn't there, right?
Right. The lender can take back the property and try to resell it to someone for $5 million, or they can accept your $5 million.
And so that's something that we're able to do these days a little bit more easily because of the way the market spin, right? I mean,
yes, and on the commercial side, you're dealing with your attorney and the bank's attorney, and everything really works a lot more smoothly. There's not an ego issue the way there are in on residential deals.
Howard, I wanted to say one thing on that cross-collateralization issue you mentioned. That is a possibility to get you out of the jam, but you have to look carefully at what your other properties, what the loans on those require, because you could potentially put yourself in default. Some lenders on a first loan will not allow you to do put yourself in second position or have other have that particular property serve as collateral for another property's loan. Oftentimes they require single asset entities that are solely connected to that property and that loan. So you before you do any cross-collateralization, you have to be careful and take a look at what the loan on those other properties are, so that you don't find yourself in default on your other loans.
Right, exactly, and that's kind of what we're talking about here. Is Jean-Marc has a term for it. It's like a financial tune-up. I mean, right?
My company is Financial Attunement Inc. So,
but it's like tuning their finances to like include all these things that we're talking about. Like cross collateralization might be something you look at, but not necessarily want to do because of what Scott just said. I mean, you've also got to look at all the aspects of how to trim expenses, how to maximize your income potential. Right. I mean,
right. No, but Scott brings up a great point. I mean, you do have to look at all the different details on the other loans. So someone may have many assets, but they are segregated into different entities, different legal structures. So when you cross collateralize, the owner of both properties needs to be exactly the same.
Oh, and one other thing, when you're talking about doing a tune-up, you really need to be looking to do this no less than 6 months before your loan's coming due, and possibly 12 months, so that you have time to look at your options. Isn't that right, Jean-Marc?
Absolutely. And as I was saying, the lenders look back. So they're going to look at a 2-year history. They might look at 12 months. But if you have a plan to reposition your asset, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's say you have X amount of income and you're going to increase that by 20 or 30% because you're changing what you're doing with the property, the bank is not going to look at that. A bridge lender will look at that because that's part of your turnaround plan, and the exit strategy is to get a traditional or institutional loan after the fact once you have the property stabilized at the higher income.
Give us the number where they're going to call you.
So today on the show, it's either 800-516-1220 at KDOW, 800-516-1220.
And where do they reach us at the office during the week if they want to really talk to us?
If you want to really talk to us during the week, it's 1-415-484-LOAN. So 1-415-484-5626.
Yeah, and we're there all week. Jean-Marc and I work together to assist you, and we don't charge anything for the consultation and for the phone calls and anything. We don't charge you. We're here to help you put your stuff back in order the way you want it, achieve your financial and your real estate goals, and we get paid on the back end when we get our stuff done. We get paid through the traditional methods. So we don't charge up front for the consult or anything. We just want to get everybody going in the way they want in this crazy economy, and we're the ones that know how to do it. Most people out there have a day job; they have something else that they do for a living, not concentrating on how to attune their real estate and their finances into the way they want.
Well, no, this does definitely get very complex, and I spend more than full time learning all the different ins and outs of how to navigate this economy, which keeps changing on us.
It does, indeed, and that's what we're talking about every week. All right, we're going to be right back just after a quick commercial, but I want to mention, and if you own any kind of a property, it doesn't have to be a commercial property, it can be a residential or a commercial property, the deadline, which is approaching in about 10 days, what's today, the 4th or 5th? It's the 15th of September, is the deadline, and that's it for appealing your property tax assessment. If you have a commercial property or a residential home that has not been reassessed this year, which it should be reassessed the last few years, it should be getting reassessed every single year because the value has dropped over the last couple of years. You're supposed to, by law, be reassessed, and if you have not, you're probably costing yourself literally thousands of dollars, possibly a year. The deadline is coming in 11 days on September 15th. If you own any property right now, and if anybody's going to call right now, now would be the good time and the good reason to do so. Call up, give Kevin your phone number right here, and I'll take your number, and we'll make sure we get you filed for an appeal of your property taxes, because that's something that we can also help you with. Give us a call at 800, or if you want to ask us a question, 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220. Scott, you're going to stay with us after the break?
Yes, I will, Howard.
All right, we'll be right back.
You're listening to Open House Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.
All right, I love that blues. Welcome to Open House Radio. It is bottom of the hour right here at KDOW. That's what we say in the radio business. It's 9:30, and we are with you every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on 1220 a.m. KDOW. We are here to help you figure out the ins and outs of the real estate business, how to make your life a little bit easier. And my dad used to have an expression. He used to say, "Position is everything in life," and that could be true in our talk right now, because we're talking about repositioning, and we're trying to figure out how to reposition. And before we get into that, we're finishing off discussing some of the solutions first, that, before we get into what the final outcome and answer might be of what you do. First, let's get out of the situation. Let's get out of the boiling hot water pot and then dry off, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to figure out how to do. So go ahead. You pick it up from here. We were just talking about what some of the solutions are if you're a commercial property owner and you may be coming up for your loans coming due in the next year, 2 years?
Year, 2 years, whatever. So if you find yourself with little or no equity in the property, and lenders tend to go up to 65%, maybe 70% of the equity in the property on a loan. They will not go beyond that. So even though you still may have quote-unquote equity, it may not be enough for the lender to be comfortable. So again, based on cash flow or based on property valuation, those are the two metrics that they're going to use. And the lenders are going to look at whether you qualify for enough loan to pay off your existing loan. If you are short on that payoff, where do you go? So obviously, number one is negotiating with your lender. Will they rewrite your loan at a lower amount? Most of the time they will not. Very often you need to come up with another lender that will. And what we found to work very well is to get a loan approved for whatever loan amount is possible, and use that approval to go to the existing lender and negotiate a payoff at that loan amount, because that's what the property qualifies for.
That's how I buy all my cars.
You show up with cash, or
yeah,
a loan approved, and
all right. You just walk into one dealer with the paper from the other dealer and say, hey, okay, make it or break it, whatever.
Well, that's a little bit different. Here, you're showing up with cash. I have X amount of cash. Do you want it or not? Do you want that, or do you want to take the property back? And most of the time, they will not take the property back.
Right. At this point, they're really not anxious to do that, are they?
No, they're not. No, they're not. And they're going to look at whether you have the ability to pay them cash on top of what the payoff is. A lot also depends on whether it's a recourse loan or a non-recourse loan. Does the lender have recourse to your personal assets or the business assets above and beyond the property? You need to know whether your loan is one or the other.
If they've personally signed for it or not, basically.
If they personally or as the business.
Yeah.
The business may be very well off. If it's a non-recourse loan, the only remedy the lender has is to go after the real estate.
All right. So they're going to bring in, when they come talk to us, if they want to talk to us about this, they would bring in their loan docs?
They would bring in their loan docs, but before coming in, I would rather have a longer discussion and really find out what the situation is, because there are so many variables, it's hard to cover everything.
So like a 10-minute, 15-minute phone call on the phone first, and you can go over some of that stuff and tell them, because I don't think most people know necessarily all the nuances of their loan. I mean, they might not remember they signed a loan 5 or 10 years ago, whether it's a recourse loan or a non-recourse loan. They might have several other properties, and, it's really hard to remember all the details.
No, it is hard to remember, and the more real estate you have, the more one blends into the other, and it's definitely interesting.
So bring their box with them, their file, if they need to come in or have us look at it, and we can sit down and go over it with them and figure out whether these things are that recourse loan, non-recourse loan.
Right.
I wanted to mention something in that line. Most people don't look at their loan documents very often, but it is important to be aware of what types of things can make a non-recourse loan a recourse loan. I've seen some lenders whose notes provide that if you have a lien on the property that's not cured within a certain period of time, then the loan would become recourse. So commercial owners, particularly multifamily, have to be very careful that if they've got some delinquent vendor liens that are put on because they haven't been able to keep current on the suppliers, they need to make sure that they get those liens off the property, because they can end up converting your non-recourse loan into a recourse loan, which could be a pretty devastating thing for somebody who's in financial trouble with a particular property. Exactly.
And, I think a good point you made a minute ago, too, is that you prepare in advance for all these things. I mean, nobody wants to get caught at the last second running around like a chicken with their head cut off, like, oh my gosh, we need to refi, or we don't know what our loan is. I mean, this is something that everybody, responsible investors, should be taking a look at right now and coming to a conclusion about what the next 5 to 10 years are planning, for their portfolio.
Right, absolutely. And, there are, of course, some businesses that are in trouble in this economy, there's no question, are barely making their mortgage payments, and maybe their best situation is to either move away from the property, or they're not able to negotiate a short payoff. They may have to sell the property, and that's where other investors that have cash may have opportunities.
Right, and we can help them with that as well if they need, to sell the property. That's, again, we have the resources here. We're here on the radio to inspire and to educate, but also we want to give you the resources by which you can then do the things that we talk about, and we can help you with that.
Oh, absolutely. So, there are many people sitting with cash on the sidelines waiting and looking for opportunities. There are other property owners that are, strangling under the weight of essentially an overlarge mortgage.
All right. So if you're strangling, give us a number and let's talk. I mean, that's basically what we get a lot of calls during the week from people, because you can't solve everybody's issues, in 30 seconds on a radio show.
Right. So. And it's entirely possible you can sell your property to an investor who's going to lease it right back to you at a more advantageous monthly rate. And if you can stay in business, even especially if you don't have any equity in the property left, you're staying in business. You at a much lower rent, you're a lot better off. Now you're surviving.
Exactly. So that's all right. We're going to talk, as I said, about that. Next topic now will be about expense stabilization and how to maximize some of the property assets and things that we need, because that's a huge part of the equation, is how to make sure that asset is really being efficient, and then that in turn will go towards the bottom line helping the property qualify for financing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a client right now, for example, that is occupying about 2/3 of one building and subleasing another third of that building. And as a tenant in their own building, I mean, it's the same owners that have an LLC that owns the building and run the business, so they're leasing from themselves. As a tenant, they're having issues paying the rent for the 2/3 of the building. And then separately, the building itself doesn't quite qualify based on the tightened guidelines for the lender. So we're renegotiating a lower payoff with the existing lender. At the same time, they're also looking at how to reposition their business to increase the income. So they are actually consolidating the space they're using because a lot of it ended up being desks being used as storage. Their employment is down.
Now that's in the feng shui segment, okay? Come on, we're not going to talk about how to clean your desk today. If you have a messy desk, you have to tune in next week, and we're going to talk about that.
No, if you have 50 or 100 desks that are being, you don't have people sitting there, it's just storage, you might as well put those files into real storage and sublease that space to someone else. So they're going to consolidate into 1/3 of the building and rent out the other third that they're not using. So that will maximize. They also have they've negotiated a lease for a cell tower on their roof. So, if you can reposition your property to increase the income, here they're adding a tenant, they're adding a cell tower. This was unused roof space. If they
that's a great way to increase. Billboards and cell towers are two of the best ways that you can possibly add income to your property, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, downtown San Francisco, those billboards off Highway 101, some of those bring in over $100,000 a month, and if you think about it, that's $1.2 million a year. That way increases the value of your building.
Yeah, a little bit, and there's some other techniques that we can show you how to do too. There's something I like to talk about is the RUB system, and I might as well talk about it for a second right now. That's a way that you can actually bill back I call it the resident utility bill back system, but it's actually I think referred to as the ratio utility billing system, and it refers to how you can then on a non-metered multi-residential property bill back the portion of the utilities that are being used by the different tenants to the tenants directly, rather than the owners always paying, a water bill, for instance, or something. And you can increase the rents or whatever accordingly, and the income, of course, quite a bit by doing something like this and instituting some sort of an expense saving system like that. And that's something that we can hook you up with.
Howard, you can also keep your tenants aware of usage of the utilities and keep the usage down that way.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Good point. Scott, you make some wonderful points, and I love having you on here. Before we take this commercial, we'll talk about this a little more when we come back, but give us your information where they can reach you.
Sure. You can reach me during the day at 415-753-5245. Or you can see my website at www.bassinlaw.net, BASSINLAW.net.
Excellent. And, you can reach all of our advertisers, sponsors, and partners on our website. If you go on openhouseradio.info, I-N-F-O, that's openhouseradio.info, you get all the links to all the sponsors, including Scott and to Jean-Marc and to me and all kinds of other fun interesting places that you'll see. When we come back, we will finish talking about how to maximize your income and stabilize your expenses, lower your expenses, hopefully, on some of your commercial properties. If you want to give us a call, ask any questions, we're live here. The number is 800-516-1220. That's 800-516-1220. Give us a call right now. This is Open House Radio. We'll be right back.
You know what that means, Stephen?
It's time to buy CDs, Howard.
That's right. CDs, DVDs, new and used. And where do you get them?
The best shop in California, Amoeba Records. The only shop in California that matters when you're talking about shopping for good music.
That's right. It's probably one of the only ones left, and yet it's the best one. So, who cares about the rest?
So we got San Francisco Amoeba. We got Berkeley Amoeba. We got Los Angeles Amoeba. My band Jane's Addiction did a concert at Amoeba in Hollywood, unannounced, on their stage. And after the show, I went and shopped and got some Olivia Newton-John and some Rod Stewart records.
And they're so cool over there too. You know, like when you call over there, the owner of the store answered. One day I called over there, she actually answered the phone herself.
Yeah, they love music and they love helping people find good music.
If you need any help with anything, you just ask somebody there. They got guys that are the most knowledgeable, guys and girls, I should say, that are the most knowledgeable in their industry and about the different music. And if they can't find it for you, they'll find somebody else that can.
That's
and
true.
They'll help you out. They're really cool about that.
And that's Amoeba Records in Los Angeles, in Berkeley, California, and San Francisco. They're helping us bring music to you on the American Rock Exchange. And we want to thank Amoeba, and I want to shop at Amoeba. I want to kiss it, hug it, and love it. Amoeba Records.
You're listening to Open House Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.
All right, welcome back to Open House Radio. If you're new to the station or to my show, or our show, I should say, it's the place you ought to be every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. And we say in the beginning of the show to get your BlackBerry or your iPhone or your smartphone, I guess, out. And that is the truth. You should be taking our number down and putting it in your phone, because when you have a question about a loan or real estate or a legal matter, you shouldn't have to be fumbling around looking for it. You should just give us a call and it should be right there. So just list it under real estate. You can put it right in there. My direct line where you can reach me directly is 818-422-7161. I still have my my cell phone I've had for years and years and years. So everyone want to call me in the middle of the night and wake me up, that's the number, 818-422-7161. You can also get us on the web, email at radioshow@yahoo.com. That's the letter U, radioshow@yahoo.com. If you want to get on during the week and talk to us at the office, which I think is an important thing for most people to, when you have a little more time, you have 15 minutes to sit on the phone, give us a call. You can reach us at 415-484-5626. That's 415-484-LOAN, LOAN, and you can reach John Mark and myself during the week at our office here in San Francisco. We were just in the middle of talking about maximizing income and how to lower expenses on commercial multi-use or multi-residential real estate.
Well, the bottom line is maximizing what's called net operating income. So it's maximizing the income and minimizing the expenses, of
Correct.
course.
Very good. Well said. That puts it all down. And that, of course, the net operating income is what you use to divide into the sales price to get up with, which is what your cap rate is. And that's how people find out what they think their property is worth in relation to other properties in the pool. You can kind of compare properties using the cap rate. So give us a couple examples. You already did of ways that they can raise the NOI.
Well, just in terms of raising the income first, obviously adding a cell tower or a billboard is a huge, it's almost a free addition. Most of the time billboard companies or cell tower companies will come in, sign a lease, they will take care of all the capital improvements on the property, and you just get a monthly check. So that's beautiful. There are also some properties, in particular residential, where you may be able to reposition them for a special use. If you have a single family or 1 to 4 units, you can potentially convert that to elderly housing or special needs housing, and those tenants pay substantially more than a regular tenant.
Right, they rent by the room more than
they rent by the room. Even in a college town, you can rent to students. If you have a 4-bedroom home, you can rent each room for $800 rather than the entire apartment for $2,500, and you're going to get $4,000 instead of $2,500.
Now we've got a couple investments like that as well right now. I mean, we have a couple properties. If you get on the investment hot sheet, or you want to call us, we actually have. I have a 4-plex right now in Las Vegas that's bringing in a really, really nice cash flow that's very inexpensive. And I have a house which in another part of the country, but it's a really, really nice 3+2 that you can bring in about. And both of these investments are showing about a 17% cap rate. That's after expense and, figuring in everything, which I don't know if everyone's familiar with how high that is, but that's pretty darn high. and they're both
right. And we also have an apartment building. It's a 100+ unit apartment building that's offering about a 19% cash on cash return.
19% cash on cash.
19% cash on cash.
Yeah, and that's amazing. That means like the amount of money you put in for your down payment, you're going to get that back in 5 years. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, 20%. So just about 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, on the 100 units, after 5 years, after 2 years, we would refinance it and get all your cash back.
And then it pays for itself at that point?
It more than pays for itself. Yeah.
Okay, so if the phone isn't lighting up yet, if anybody wasn't quite paying attention to that, they should get on the horn and give us a call right now. And, also the other thing I want to reiterate before we're off, and I'm trying to say it 2 more times, is if you're one of the ways to raise your NOI that we're talking about is to lower your expenses, and you only have until the 15th of September to get a reassessment on your property taxes for this last year. So if you haven't done that, if your property hasn't been reassessed, it doesn't cost, I think it's $30 filing fee in San Francisco plus, whatever the company or whoever charges you to do the actual reappraisal or assessment. But it's going to be gone after another 11 days from now. You can't get it anymore. It's it. You need to call today to schedule that and file for your appeal, or you lose it forever. So, and that could substantially,
Well, you lose it for this year.
You lose it for this year, but you can't get it back. I mean, you have to wait then until next year to get the reassessment if they haven't done it. And I don't know anybody out there who wants to just basically throw money down the toilet.
No, and I mean, for example, I had a condo up in Tahoe that was assessed at $680,000, and which is what I had paid for it, and it had slowly risen. And the latest assessment is about $470,000. So I'm now paying tax on $470,000, which is a whole lot less than paying on taxes on $680,000 valuation.
Yeah, it's an extra. Yeah, it saves about $200 and something a month. Probably.
And I believe that cost me $25 to file. So
yeah, so there you go. You just save a few $1,000s right there for a small filing fee. So not to get off subject, but that is on subject. I mean, anybody who wants to lower expenses, that's how you do it. That's one of the ways. And, you can also, I want to mention real quick, too, another part of that equation is by, you use the term forced appreciation with properties. And right. This is basically what we refer to as adding value to the property through doing things to maximize your income, which will then relate to the appreciation that the property is valued at. So, for instance, a quick example of that would be if you had a 10-unit building that you own. I'm going to use a small building as an example, but a 10-unit building, if you were to increase the income per unit by $100 a month, by doing capital improvements to the building or something that you could increase the rent by $100 each unit, that would add $1,200 a year to each unit's income. Times 10 units equals $12,000 a year income extra to you on the bottom line. And if you're at a 10, for instance, to pick a number, which is an average number, a 10 gross rent multiplier, which is called the GRM. If you're at a 10, you multiply 10 times $12,000, and you're looking at $120,000 value added to your building. That you up the rents $100, and you added $120,000 value to the building.
And there's increasing the rent. There's also decreasing the expenses, and sometimes just looking at some of the basic maintenance on the property. By changing how you operate, you can substantially decrease your costs. We had an RV park down in the Central Valley. I was trying to figure out why the electrical bill was so high when we took over the park. And one of the things we found out, there was a 480-volt service coming in. We had a transformer stepping it down. And I calculated that transformer was actually costing us somewhere around $700 a month in our energy bill.
Wow. And it wasn't even being used?
It was being used just to step down. So by getting PG&E to change out the service from a 480 service to a 240 service, we actually saved $700 a month. Now, that cost quite a bit to get them to try to make the change, but that was well worth it. So, dropping the cost by $700 a month just by changing how we operated.
That's all good info, and that's what we're here to do, is bring you good info. So we have lots of tricks like that up our sleeve, and we my favorite expression, I've been saying this for years and years on the radio and in life, is you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of people out there, they're experienced investors. You might be out there thinking, I own a few properties. But guess what? If you find one thing, like the techniques that we're talking about, that can help you to save money and help bring higher income to your family and build your portfolio, whatever, that's what we're talking about here. And it's important that you do not be arrogant in some ways and say, I think I know everything, because everybody can learn from other people. And we're here to try to bring you some of those resources and some of those ideas that we've acquired over the years in real estate that we've been in, by bringing you, all of our partners here. Jean-Marc, who's he's just a crackpot in loans. I mean, you got to find financing. That's the guy you go to. If you want to go to a good lawyer, Scott is our guy, and you can reach him. We got to we're wrapping up the last minute here, but you've heard Scott on the show. He's on the website. If you find him at bassenlaw.net. You can also find us and all of our sponsors on the web at openhouseradio.info. That's our cute little website you can see my ugly mug on there as well, and see what I look like and see all my crazy pictures and whatever. It's a really good resource for your real estate. And then you can call us during the week at 415-484 LOAN, LOAN. Two of the other sponsors that I want to mention real quick before we're done here is the Kangen Water Company, and we're going to have Robert back on probably next week or the week after to talk more about the benefits of his product, which is an amazing product. You can find them on the web at water4energy, the number 4energy.com. You can also, if you want like the hottest, really, really good, unbelievably good Mexican food. And I have to give out my favorite sponsor, because I go there like every couple of weeks when I'm in L.A. In Hollywood, is the Velvet Margarita Cantina. Please frequent them. They're on Cahuenga Boulevard between Sunset and Hollywood. Just drop on by. It is the coolest, hippest new hangout in L.A., and we're there all the time on the weekends when we're in town. So tell Big Daddy Carlos and Ava, his wonderful wife, that you came from Open House Radio, that Howard sent you, and maybe they'll set you up. Definitely try the dessert tray. It's awesome. That's a Velvet Margarita Cantina on Cahuenga in Hollywood. So when you're down in L.A., make sure you stop in there. Did I miss anything, Jean-Marc, or just anything you want to wrap with before we're off here in 10 seconds?
Actually, just we're sort of running out of time on refinance. The Fannie Mae loan limit is actually dropping in the high price areas from $729 to $625. So if you do have a loan in that price range and you're thinking of refinancing, you better get on it immediately. That's something it should really have been submitted by September 1st, but we have till October 1st to close this.
Okay,
that's about
hurry up and give us a call at 415-484-LOAN, or about your property tax reduction. Don't forget, you only got another 10 days if you want to reassess those taxes. This is Open House Radio. We'll catch you next Sunday at 9 o'clock.